All right, guys. I'm using the microphone here because I've got the heater going. I'm on break. And, oops, let's not accelerate the car with the big boot I got on my foot. So I'm using the microphone so you don't hear the background of the car going and the heater going and all that. But I'm going to ask you for your public opinion on police cars or other LEOs, law enforcement officers. Anytime you hear anybody say LEO, that means law enforcement officer. I'm going to ask for your public opinion on them parking at a red curb in a non-emergency. In this specific circumstance, there was a police officer and a CHP, California Highway Patrolman, who were both had parked their marked vehicles at a red curb in Hemet, California, across the street from the courthouse. And by the way, they weren't jaywalking. On that particular street, it dead ends into the court parking lot and the Civic Center parking lots. So it's not necessarily jaywalking when they walk across in front of the courthouse there. It's kind of like an exempt area for jaywalking because it dead ends into the parking lot there. So it's kind of like not one of those streets where cars just go up and down all day long. That said, so these two marked police units were parked at a red curb. I'm going to put the original video link below in case you're wondering what video I'm talking about. You can go click the video link and watch the video. I tried to call out the police officer. I got distracted by these two court employees, so I kind of missed the police officer. But the CHP patrolman, I stopped and asked him about it. To me, he seemed professional in his response. But somebody brought up or posed the question in the comments of that video that perhaps it's legal for them to do that in a non-emergency because they need their vehicle close to them. They have sensitive items in there like radio equipment or firearms. There may be an emergency. They have to run out and jump in their car and take off. I don't know about that because I've been to court before when I was an animal control officer, which I no longer am. But when I would have to go to traffic court for like dog licenses and stuff. And the police have to turn their radios off inside the courtroom. The judge would be like, that should be off. So how are they going to respond to an emergency if they're in court? It's kind of, I don't know. So, but somebody posed that question. I looked in the California DMV handbook, and on pages 56 to 58, it covers parking and colored curbs. And it doesn't say in there, anywhere on those pages, that although emergency vehicles can legally park at a red curb, it simply says that a red curb is no standing, no parking. Like, that's it. Done. Because we know that fire engines and so forth, ambulances, AMRs, EMS have to park at that curb in case of an emergency. Lights flash and somebody's down. They have to use that red curb so they have a place to park close to the sidewalk to deal with their emergency. But in the California DMV handbook, it doesn't say although emergency vehicles can park there. It simply says no standing, no parking. I looked for law enforcement handbook and law enforcement codes with California legislation, and I may have to do some more digging, but there is a California section 21055 that says in chapter 2 all emergency vehicles are exempt. But as I started looking through that, I did find a part where it said that's in reference to them driving, lights going, stop, go right through red lights, and so forth in emergencies, because they're allowed to do that. If they're going to a fire, they can't stop at the red light and wait for it to change. They go around traffic and go through the intersection. It doesn't really specify red curb parking in that section. So I don't know if they're exempt from red curb parking or if simply section 21055 chapter 2 deals with driving and them going through red lights and so forth. And I just scanned that section with my eyes, but it did not say anything about parking in a red curb. So the moral of the story, they say, is it okay for them to park at the red curb because they have to be close by, their vehicle has to be close by in case of an emergency, or because there's sensitive items and firearms in the vehicle? Is that an excusable reason, or has society just accepted that, well, police do it, well, whatever? Should we call them out on it and say, that's wrong, this is a non-emergency? And don't say, well, if they're in court, no, if they're in court, their radios are off. How are they going to get an emergency call unless someone comes in and taps them and goes, hey, man, there's, emergency downtown? So I want to get all of your public opinions on that in the comment section below. Let me know what you think. News Now Yucaipa, always keeping it important for you. And I did email somebody and ask them about this question. I'll let you know if I get a response and what they say. Talk to you later.